Welcome to Rauta, and this time an opinion video about rather darker topic, because this one is not the good news for metal community or music community in the first place. Let's talk about the Rammstein case with Till Lindeman, the vocalist and the leading man of the band, getting accusations for sexual misconduct and beyond. For the sake of not having anything else on the background, I'll use this CNN news, which I read today. Now, I've been reading about this case for the past few weeks, as early as this Irish woman came to tell about, made this Instagram posting, Irish fan, Shelby Lynn. So about 3-4 weeks ago when this surfaced, and that was a very disturbing news. I mean, you know, everybody knows about, you know, groupies getting involved with the band members, and, you know, there might be some, I don't know, sexual nature with the adventures. Sometimes it might be just like, let's go have fun with the band members, and this might include some kind of you know, sexual dealings. I don't really get to decide who gets abused here and whatnot, but obviously any kind of abuse is not really cool. We know it's out of boundaries, really. Doesn't matter what kind of a genre you're talking about and whatever, but let's also remember that it's often a two-way road. What I'm trying to do with this kind of disclaimer is to say it's often consensual kind of a thing. You know, as a fans to approach the band people, and the band people might be like, okay, let's have fun and all that stuff. And that's where it's all cool. That's where everything is like, okay, this is going to happen nicely, and everybody goes home happily, whatever, with or without drinks, with or without other substances being used and all that stuff. But now when it comes to this territory where Rammstein is being now persecuted, or prosecuted would be the rather right word of to use, it's obviously a whole different case. And those who don't know what this is all about, well, I don't know where to help you, how to help you if you haven't been reading the news. But the thing here is, it seems like this one girl or woman was drugged, spiked, whatever, and she got bruises afterwards. No recollection what's happening, and then there was, you know, making these claims that she might have been abused. Mind you, she came a few days later to point out that she was not raped, she was not touched in the proper manners and all that stuff. So in this respect, things are not that bad as you might really think about it. But obviously, this kind of abuse is not cool. Now, it seems where it started is that Rammstein gig, there is supposed to be so-called zero line. I mean, that is the kind of a first line where you got to see the band before the stage and all. And then you have this zero line where certain allegedly good-looking people in the audience, female, are picked to get a closer look at the band. I mean, this is kind of a privileged thing, which is based only appearance. But in order to do that, I mean, they have to be female, they have to be good looking according to the band representative or whatever, and then they're given like some kind of after party invitations or even some kind of a pre-show possibility. And that way it just gets kind of a shady, sketchy, all that stuff. I mean, it seems like these representatives, for the lack of better words, are scouting for possible, you know, date encounters for the band. I'm not saying the whole band is behind this, and at the moment it's focusing on Till Lindeman, the vocalist of the band. But obviously, when we're talking about band and band gigs, concerts, of course it's under the name of the whole band. Now, whatever appropriate or inappropriate happens behind the scenes, behind the curtains, with those after parties or pre-parties or whatever, we really don't know. And this is where it gets kind of a shady, because obviously people's imagination go wild, and then there are lots of like alleged victims, obviously, but the people who are not involved, but who just want it for, I don't know, the kind of wild rumors go about. Some might even be hating the bands, and now there's a good reason to target them. But obviously there are people who just love rumors, and you know how the hearsay things can go wild. What starts as a like, I might be spiked and there was some weird things going on, might lead to these rumors, which is not really cool because it really can lead to people losing their jobs and whatnot for false reasons. You know how sometimes innocent people have been, you know, imprisoned for the things they never did, but because here we are witnesses. Now, this is of course going to just harm the real victims, because the thing here is, only the victims might know what's been, you know, what they have been, or them, whatever gender, have been dealt with and what kind of stuff has been going on. And this is of course kind of a dangerous turf for, you know, people, because if you go defending the band and the band members or the crew or whatever, you're kind of get to the feeling like, okay, so now you are defending rapists, kind of a conversation which is not healthy at all. Also, at the same time, if you go blindly doing these kind of claims that these people did this and that without having the evidence to prove the witnesses and all that stuff, it's as unhealthy as well. Because it's gonna just, you know, put the real victims under the whole umbrella, and nobody really knows what's going on. And things get just kind of shady, and goalposts are being moved, and then you really don't know what's going on. So what can we really trust on, if there is anything to be trusted in the first place, is official investigations by the police and other officials. Now it seems that there have been a few cases where the women have been saying like they have been set up for possible sexual misconduct, abuse and whatnot. And these are of course very, very serious allegations, and these need to be investigated. However, for example, this case in the Lithuanian capital, Vilnius, where this first case, this Shelby, it seems like Lithuanian police has ceased the investigation. There wasn't simply enough evidence and witness. So at least for the time being, we cannot really say something really bad happened there. Something might have happened, but when there is no proof, when there is no witness, you really can't go for, you know, judging and send people to prison just because you feel like something bad might have happened. This is of course really sad for the alleged victims, because when there is no case, something might have happened, but the people just, you know, get away, not caught. But there are more things to be happening, and also we get to see this kind of a domino effect already happening. For example, some collaborators, you know, who were cooperating with the, you know, Till Lindeman and the band, have already like ceased their dealings. You know, for example, there was this company, publishing house, Klepenhauer and Witch, who had been publishing Lindeman's work. They already terminated its cooperation with the author and band leader. So already steps are being taken, with or without any kind of a proof or certainty that this person in question has done something. So what I'm saying here, we are kind of witnessing a big ass cancel case here. Now, a lot of bands have been usually targeted for canceling because various opinions, sometimes political statements, sometimes totally different. But they are always smaller bands, something that you really can just kind of target more easily and you know, cancel more easily, because there's not so much a big machine. But essentially there might not be even a crime behind it. In order to tackle bigger bands, cancel them like Rammstein and other big bands, obviously there has to be something more serious, and it's not certain that these kind of things might get cancelled. Whether or not it's a rightful thing to do to cancel this kind of a band or activity, crew, whatever, it's a kind of a tricky question. For example, let's assume there is one perpetrator, one real guilty person. Let's assume it's, for the sake of argument, that is the vocalist of the band. Now, what about the rest of the band? What about the rest of the crew who might have nothing to do with it? Are they being cancelled also because one person is guilty? And this is very important thing because unlike, corporations, you can just fire the CEO, you can find any kind of a person in the business and let the company move on. You just rehire someone and that's it. Basically the company keeps moving on. That doesn't matter what kind of industry we're really talking about, whether we're talking about corporations that have thousands of people or maybe handful of people. These things go on, and usually the guilty one is like sent to prison and removed from the job and all that stuff. But when we're talking about art, when we're talking about bands, you really can't just remove one person from the band and pretend it's the same, especially with the rare cases like Rammstein. Rare because it's still the original lineup. I mean, there are plenty of bands which have seen people come and go and the lineup has changed many times over the decades. In those cases, it's not that much of a big deal. Obviously, losing the main man, the vocalist, whatever key member of the band is always a big change and fans gonna react in various ways. But when it's a band like Rammstein, we have a valid reason to expect that the band might really stop doing what they're doing. Then again, we also have to understand it's a multi-million business. It's not just a band, some kind of a hobby you're doing in your basement. So this is gonna be a very, very interesting case to be seen how it unfolds. Now, obviously, I think most of us hope that the possible victims get their treatment right. That is, the guilty ones are judged, should they have been real crimes and all, and the victims, get justice. That is, of course, something that most of us really hope for. But what we don't hope, what most of us, I think, what we don't want to happen is some kind of a witch hunt. That is, people going on all, villain mode, to call all this, how to say it. We don't want to see some kind of a social justice being served, people being labeled by this and that just because something might have happened which isn't crime or whatever. Because sometimes people go really wild about this. They seem like they are the ones who are serving, justice. Like some Punisher cartoon character being the judge, the juror, the executioner, and everything. So this is very kind of gets really sketchy and shady in the audience ways as well. Now, like I said, there are lots of people who are going to defend the band. There are lots of people who are going to accuse the band no matter what. And that's what I hope is not happening. But given that this has been circulating on the media for quite a few weeks now, even mainstream sites such as this one, and on social media as well, it's going to be likely that a lot of fighting, a lot of arguing is going to take place over Rammstein, Till Lindeman, and what have you. Some will say any kind of alleged crimes didn't happen, any kind of abuse didn't happen, it's all in the imagination and whatever. But obviously there's something has happened. Whether it's a crime is a different thing, but I still hope that people would wait for officials to do their investigation and judging if there is to be done in the first place. This is even a kind of a topic that I didn't even want to touch because it's easy to say something by mistake, by a human error, like when I'm doing this video rather than, writing a press release or whatever that might, target a certain person. Be it me, be it one of the bands, be it some of the crew, some of the label and all that stuff. But then again, I also think these kind of things need to be addressed. Why? Because, of course, like I said, any kind of abuse is not something that is supposed to happen. And also, I don't want people to get victimized just because you feel like that something has happened. So all I'm saying, in civilized countries, everybody is innocent until proven guilty. That's the final statement I'm gonna say. And I guess we will also see how things will, unfold as the investigations go further and the officials have a word to say what will happen. Now it seems a very, very hot potato, and we'll see how it will affect the whole music industry. After all, already being said that music is getting its own hashtag #MeToo movement. And whether or not this is gonna bring out of a lot of dirty secrets which has been going on since, I don't know, decades before Rammstein, how things will change. Will it be that more unrelated people to the crew and the band are not let into band backstages, after parties or whatever. I guess that would be good, because backstage area isn't really about, for anybody else but the band and the crew. But we don't know yet. We don't know how this will affect this in the long run, or will it be forgotten in a couple of years, or how things will fold out. But it's a goddamn interesting case, and I hope that people will have their justice served. But we'll keep our eyes peeled, and if there's a reason to do a continuation, a second part, a successor to this video later on, we'll do it. But for the meantime, stay cool in your heads, stay in your pants, and don't go raving like a crazy witch hunt inquisitor online, and we'll see how it unfolds. Take care, be safe, and all that stuff.